Yo, what is up, everybody? Chris here from Big Sports News Exhortation out ever the flipping on these interwebs, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys a quick recap of what happened during Week 5 of Stage 2 of CDL, going into CDL Birmingham, of course, in Birmingham, England. Coming up in a couple of weeks. So, kicking things off, we of course had Toronto Koi taking on C9 New York. And as you guys can see, I thought it would be a 3-0 for Toronto Koi. I felt like because of how C9 had performed recently, I felt like this would be a decisive Koi win. Clearly it was not. In the thumbnail for this video, as you guys can see, I said Kips took the wrong offer, question mark, exclamation point, just to put some emphasis on it. So, looking at it, Kips went crazy. I mean, obviously it was a misnomer because he went crazy in the series. It was just meant to be clickbait. But anyways, looking at the series, of course, you had JoeDeceives going absolutely nuts, 1.45. Kips, like I said a second ago, had a great series, 1.05, 89 and 85. Then Encourage, 87 and 82, being the lone player on the C9 side to get a positive KD. Looking at the box score, of course, the map 1 went the way of the Toronto Koi, as everyone would expect, right? JoeDeceives 28 and 20. Everybody else went positive. 27 and 21 for Insight, 27 and 23 for Kips, and then 25 and 25 for Kleenex. So, looking at the map 1 for C9 New York, you of course had Encourage going 28 and 25, and then Ocus going 24 and 24. And then in the map 2, C9 New York were able to hang their hat on S&D, which has typically been their game mode, so not too surprising with that. Encourage 5 and 4, Ocus 8 and 7, Hyde 6 and 6, and then Nezra went even. Then on the other side, Kleenex had 8 and 7, Joe was 6 and 6, and Insight also went 6 and 6. But yeah, I mean, C9, they were just running it down. They played way better. And if you go back and watch it, they just dominated them. Map 3, there is no going back to watch this one. We did not see what happened because the broadcast went out. And then we just came back and found out that Cloud9 won in overtime in a 5-4 game. So, in map 4 Colossus, we had JoeDeceives going absolutely nuts, 1.71, 36 and 21 to force the game 5. Kleenex and Kips both went even, and then on the other side, Encourage went slightly positive. And then in the game 5, C9 New York surprisingly took this game 5 on Raid S&D behind 8 and 5 from Encourage, 7 and 5 from Ocus, 7 and 6 from Nezra, and 5 and 9 from Hyde. So yeah, I mean, they just played really good team COD, and that's pretty much everything in this game, right? How you play your team situations, how your team plays together. Kips 12 and 5. He had a monster game, but the Toronto Koi were just on the same page. Speaking of teams not being on the same page, we of course had the Miami Heretics proving that the Riyadh Falcons were on the same page, and I actually won some G-Stakes creds on this. As you guys know, I was expecting the Miami Heretics to win this one. I expected it to be a 3-2, ended up being a 3-0, so we take those. Now, looking at the series, you guys know I've been very, very high on this guy. The I guess Latin American Paj, as I like to call him, Mr. Trakes himself, someone who's coached by Paj, ironically, went through that Call of Duty tree, if you will. And yeah, he dropped 82 and 62, went absolutely nuts, 1.32 on the series. He's been the best player on Heretics, which is really, really saying something, considering how good Super and Rancor typically are. And Medals, how good he's been this year. So, looking at the box score, of course, everybody on the Falcons went negative. They just got absolutely cooked, right? Miami just vamos all over the place, right? So, looking at it, the map 1, Scar HP went the way of the Heretics behind 35 and 25 from Rancor. No surprises there, right? On the other side, Kismet was the only player to have like really great performance in terms of his kills, but everybody went negative on the Falcon side. Drake's 36 and 26, and Super went even. In the map 2, this went to round 11. Game 2, round 11. Can't ask for anything more, right? But you know, Miami Heretics, they couldn't ask for anything more. They just had the ice here. They iced up. Super was 12 and 6. Trakes was right there with them, 12 and 8. They were just running it down. Duo, you know, just they looked really good here. And then Metals was 7 and 7, and Rancor was 5 and 7. So solid performances from everybody on Miami. On the Riyadh side, you had late game turn-ups from Kismet, Cell, and Pred, but Exon was just kind of out of the play the whole map, so tough one. But yeah, I mean, you feel pretty good about the improvements you made if you're Riyadh, but Miami you just feel better about, right? And then in the game 3 Scar Overload, Miami just took it 6-2. Metals went 35 and 23, Trakes 34 and 28, 23 and 21 from Super, and then Rancor went slightly neg. But yeah, I mean, they just all kind of put their controllers down, and this was pretty much over. Exit went 27 and 25, but that's all she wrote. Now, in our last matchup of Friday, this was our last game 5 of the weekend. We had OpTic Texas taking a thriller against the Paris Gentlemates in a Major 1 Grand Final rematch. We had Ghosty, it's just Ghosty in Major 2 quals, right? Going 187, 1.15 KD, 111 kills, 104 deaths for NEP, and then everybody else on the mate side, with the exception of Envoy, who went egregiously negative, just kind of slightly underperformed. Sib was neg 13, not a big deal, but Envoy, I mean, you're neg like 34, whatever that is, that's pretty bad, right? So, yeah, 34. Yeah, that's pretty bad. So looking at the OpTic Texas side, everybody did their thing. Mercules 1.18, 107.91, Dashy 95 and 89, Hook 106 and 100, and Shotzi 91.92. So everybody hovered around even or slightly paused. So great performance from OpTic Texas. And great performance from the Paris Gentlemen in map 1, where they won 250 and 165, buying 38 and 20. I'm sorry, 30 and 28 from Neptune, and then Ghosty going even to really solidify the fact that even with Envoy going neg 11 and Sib going neg 9, you can still win. I mean, neg 18 is insane work, right? So, yeah, that's pretty typical for the mate side. OpTic Texas, they outslayed, but they lost the map egregiously, right? Mercules 32 and 21, Dashy 29 and 25, Shotzi 27 and 25, and Hook 30 and 29. And this match just kind of proved, well, this map specifically kind of proved that mates and their objective efficiency is something to really not sneeze at, right? Like, even when they're not getting the kills, they just play the right way. So, looking at the map 2, Raid S&D, of course, Ghosty, he played the right way, but it did not matter in the end because Hook and Mercules, they fused into one. They did the fusion, ha! And, you know, they dropped 21. 21 and 15 is pretty typical in an S&D between two players. Hook 11 and 6, Merc 10 and 9, Shotzi 7 and 7, and Dashy, of course, 6 and 9. And then on the Gentlemate side, you had Envoy 8 and 7, Ghosty 11 and 7, and then Neptune going slightly negative, and Sib just having a really uncharacteristically bad one, 4 and 11. Now, speaking of the, well, map 3, we had Scar Overload, where Neptune absolutely went crazy, 34 and 27. He was a standout for the entire lobby. Then you had Sib, of course, with 26 and 23, and Ghosty with 25 and 24 to round out their solid performances. Then on the other side, you had Dashy, 23 and 22, and Mercules, 27 and 26 to close that one out. It was a really close one. Came down to the wire in the end, and mates just kind of edged it out. Dashy had like a chance to run it back towards the end, but who knows what would have happened if he ran it through bottom blue. Anyways, the Scar, of course, he ran it back, and OpTic Texas took this one, so they ended up splitting the Scars, and OpTic Texas took the lead by taking the final one, as you guys can see. But it was 250 to 200 in favor of the green wall. Dashy went 32 and 26. He threw the clock back and said, hey, I can, you know, top frag too, if you guys forgot. But, yeah, Hook 32 and 30. And then on the other side, you had Ghosty going 34 and 24, and Sib going 29 and 27. And then we went into a Game 5, like I said, on Scar, where OpTic Texas were able to take it 6-5. This was a super fun one. This is my match of the week. I'll be dissecting this in COD for Dummies later this week. So, yeah, should be a fun one. So 11 and 6 from Merc, Shotzi 9 and 6, Hook 7 and 7, and Dashy 5 and 7. And then from Nep on the other side, 10 and 8, and then everybody else went negative. So, that's how our match of the week went down. Then on Saturday, we kicked things off with a surprising upset coming from the Carolina Royal Ravens, or as Krem called them, randoms. Fine boom sound. So Lurks, he went absolutely nuts, 1.27, 76, and 60. And then on the G2 side, Estriel was the king of the castle, 73 and 64, only player to go positive. And then on the Carolina Royal Ravens side, conversely, you had Craze going 69 and 61, 70 and 63 from Exceed, and 63 and 65 from Nero the Emperor. So, looking at map 1, you had Lurks going absolutely nuts. He went 42 and 35, so that's kind of a theme on the weekend. Lurks going crazy in map 1s. Write that one down. Craze went 35 and 35. Nero went 32 and 36. And Exceed went 32 and 37. Then on the Minnesota side, you had Estral going 38 and 34. Mamba matching him with 38 and 34. And then Skies going 34 and 33. And Kremp going 33 and 40. In the map 2, Exposed S&D, you of course had Skies top fragging 8 and 6. Kind of what you expect from Skies at this point. But it was a loss to the Carolina Royal Ravens as Exceed dropped 10 and 6. Craze dropped 10 and 6. Exceed dropped 8 and 5. Lurks dropped 6 and 6, and Nero dropped 5 and 6. So on the other side, Minnesota, you had a lot of players in the red going -3, -2, etc. Not going to get it done. You got to win those ones. Now, speaking of winning ones, Carolina was winning all the ones in the game 3, where they were able to take it 6-2 with a really strong performance from Lurks, who was the highest KD, 28 and 19. Exceed had the highest kills, right? Apart from Estriel, 30 and 21. And then Craze was 24 and 20, and Nero was 26 and 23. So look at the Minnesota side. Estriel, once again, only player to go positive, and everybody else just got absolutely swirled. Got a swirly. Looking at the next series, we of course had JoeDeceives giving the Vancouver Surge and Capsule a swirly. He said, "Hey nerds, give me your fucking lunch money," you know. So yeah, 1.36 from Joe, 121 kills, excusez-moi, 89 deaths, 1.15 series IR. Shout out to the Zombies com. 1.36 KD from Joe, Kips with the 1.15 KD, and then CleanX and Insight. They went slightly neg, but I mean, feed up series, right? On the Vancouver side, you had Lunars going positive by 1 kill, and everybody else just went slightly neg, so not really anything too bad for the Vancouver side, just outplayed by Toronto. So, Toronto took this Colossus HP 250 to 196 behind 42 and 27 from JoeDeceives. Joe losses? Kips 37 and 27. Kips losses? And then Insight and CleanX both went slightly neg, but, you know, if Kips and Joe are dropping almost 80 kills put together, then who cares, right? On the other side, Gwyn 32 and 29, everybody else went negative, and Tej went neg 11. He went neg 10, and Capsule went neg 11, so neg 21 between those two. Going to be a tough day. Speaking of tough day, the Vancouver Surge were like, hey, maybe not so tough of a day. We'll win the map too, but it's all they won, right? So TJ went 10 and 6, feeling like Tej. Lunars went 10 and 8. He was also feeling like Tej. And then Kips was the only player on Koi who was feeling like Tej, so that's why they didn't win the map. It's 13-7 from Kips, but everybody else on Koi went quite negative. Map 3, Exposure Overload. We, of course, had Capsule as a standout for the Vancouver Surge side, but didn't matter as JoeDeceives also dropped 30 and 22, and Insight was 19-18, but just way better contribution from JoeDeceives' teammates than, conversely, what Capsule got from his teammates, right? So in the map 4, Scar HP, this is a really fun one. This one went down to the wire. If you missed it, go check it out. JoeDeceives, once again, dropped another 40 piece. This time, instead of 42, he said, here go one more for y'all. Shout out to LeBron. Dropped 43. CleanX dropped 35 and 34. And then Insight and Kips both went slightly negative in the case of Kips and neg 9 in the case of Insight. On the Vancouver Surge side, you of course had Lunars going 33 and 29. Gwyn going 34 and 31. And then Capsule going dead even. And that's how we end that series. Now, let's check out what I was expecting. So I expected OpTic to win their series versus Gentlemates. I expected it to be a 3-1. I expected G2 to win their series against the Royal Ravens. The only reason I don't go over this so much is because you guys can see, based on my G6 creds, how I'm thinking. I expected Koi to win, as you guys would expect, and I expected LA Thieves to win the next series, and then I expected Gentlemates to win against Boston Breach. So let's check out LA Thieves versus C9 New York. Not going super deep into the weeds on this one. Scrap, of course, you guys can see there's a big gap. 1.44 from Ernie, 1.22 from the Hydra. On the C9 side, everybody went neg. Let's look at the standout. 102 kills, 71 deaths, 1.12 series IR. Map 1, 250 and 95. Nezra went even. 30 and 23 from Abizi. Hydra 28 and 23. Scrap 26 and 22. Nam neg 4. GG, right? Map 2, 6-4. Just a weirdly played S&D from Cloud9. Hyde, Ocus, and Courage, they all had good games. Hyde 10-6, Ocus 8-6, and Encourage 9-7. Then on the LA Thieves side, BZ was 10-8, and Hydra was 9-8. So the SMG duo came into play for the Thieves. Honestly, just a really weird map. The BZ 1v4 Ace was pretty nice, so if you missed that, go check out the highlights. Map 3 Scar, I mean, yeah, Scrap, he just absolutely went crazy on them. 38-21 is insane. 33-31 from Encourage. And then on the LA Thieves side, Hydra 36-28 and Niem 27-25. So just absolutely routing them. And then the BZ was 18-31. So rare bad map for a BZ, but when you're playing Cloud9, kind of doesn't matter at all. Looking at the map for the Scar HP, we're at it back on another Scar. Scrap 33-20, Niem 28-23, 23-20 from Hydra, and a BZ 24-22. And then Encourage was the only player to have a positive KD, going 26-24 to close out that series. So nothing really surprising there. LA Thieves took care of business as we all expected. Speaking of people who took care of business as we all expected, we had Ghosty and the Gentlemates getting a hot 3-1 over the Boston Breach in a much needed series where, as you guys could see from last week's video, I charted that Boston would miss the major by losing to Gentlemates in the series. So, if you missed that video, go check it out. But Smart was the only player on the Boston Breach to go positive ever so slightly by 1 kill. And then on the Gentlemates side, of course, like I discussed, Ghosty, KD leader. He was obviously the best player on Saturday. 1.56 KD, 95 kills, 61 deaths. And yeah, Envoy, only other player to go positive. He had his redemption arc when they needed it the most, right? 89 and 84, 1.06 KD from him. And then in the map 1, the Gentlemates came out really hot, winning this closely contested map 1, 250-246. We capped off Saturday with a really, really hot hard point, and we started off Sunday with the hot one, so more on that in a minute. Anyways, Ghosty went 33-22, 33-29 from Envoy, 28-27 from Neptune, and Simp went even, and then everybody on the Breach side went negative. So, impressive objective efficiency from Breach. I mean, if they win that, you would have to say that's just really, really well played, right? So, even though it's a 4-point game, you have to be really proud of that if you're Breach. You're getting outslayed pretty massively, and you almost won. So, looking at the map 2, of course, the Gentlemates went up 2-0 in the series, making it look like it'd be pretty light work. Behind 12-4 from Ghosty, he went absolutely nuts. He was like, this is an important series. I'm the leader of this team. I got to take over, and he did. Snoopy, Boston Breach's lead player, and really their anchor point. He went even, tried to do all he could, but, you know, Nasty and Smart 7-8, Purr 6-10, just slightly outplayed. Everybody else on the mates, with the exception of Sib, went positive, so, yeah, I mean, Envoy and Neptune went even, but Sib went slightly neg, so everybody on mates played pretty well. Looking at the map 3, of course, he had a 4-2 victory for the Boston Breach. Spart went 30-23, and Purge complimented him with 30-25. Then you had Nasty going 19-17, and Stupid going 19-22. Then on the Gentlemate side, you had Envoy going 28-24, and Ghosty going 24-21 for the loss. Looking at the map 4, you had Ghosty going 26-14, Neptune going 26-20. Then on the other side, you had Purge going 27-26. And yeah, everybody else went negative in the lobby. That's how we ended it. Gentlemates, pretty easy 3-1. Not a lot to discuss there. Now, when it rains, it pours for the Boston Breach, you guys. If you watched last week's video, you know I expect them to go 0-2. And 0-2 they went. I thought that this Boston Breach team, Purge or Snoop, would not be enough to get them over the hump. In the last series, as you guys can see, it was Snoop. Purge was pretty close. But in this series, it was Purge. Snoop was pretty close. So yeah, they just constantly flip-flop between who's going to not really show up. So that's why I think it's time to kind of end that experiment. So looking at experiments that don't need to end, we have Kremp on his new team, G2 Minnesota, really coasting to a very easy and much needed win behind 98 kills and 89 deaths, 1.1 KD. And yeah, Estriel, his duo, 92 and 85, and then Mamba, their rookie, was doing pretty well with 88 kills, 87 deaths. Now on the other side, you had Nasty going 90 and 83, Snoopy was 90 and 85, and then Spart went even. So looking at the map 1, you had another 250 to 244 for the Boston Breach, where they had 244. It's odd that it happened back-to-back times, right? So looking at it, Kremp was 31 and 28, and Estrel went even. Mamba and Skies, they just did their 25% to help them win the map. And then on the Boston Breach side, you had Snoopy going 31-28, Nasty having a matching scoreline with 31-28, and Spark going 27-27 for the L. Looking at the map 2, you of course had Nasty popping Take. He was 10-4. Snoopy was 11-6. Those two pop Take. And then, of course, you had Spart doing his 25%, putting up that 5-5 KD. And on the Minnesota side, everybody went negative, so nobody really went crazy. Looking at the map 3, Exposure Overload, you had Estriel going absolutely crazy to get them over the hump. This is a 1-1 game, and it went to OT, so pretty fun one. 30-25 from Estriel, Nasty 28-20, 27-21 from Spart, and then Snoop was 25-23. And yeah, I mean, this whole series, you guys can see Purge was just having a rough one, right? So looking at the map 4, Colossus HP, this is where the series was closed out, and to me, this is where this Boston Breach team was blown up. I feel like they knew that the change is going to be imminent, and they just didn't play this map well because the team is pretty much up shit's creek without a paddle. So 38-24 from Kremp on Kremp losses. You only had 130 points from the Boston Breach, which is crazy. Probably could have dropped 50 at this pace if it went a little bit deeper. 31-22 from Mamba, 27-23 from Estriel, and Skies went even. And then, of course, obviously Breach got nuked, so everybody went negative. Now, looking at, speaking of teams getting nuked, you had the Vancouver Surge getting 3-0'd in insane fashion. Super and Metals and all of them were just going nuts. Metals in the interview said they weren't even calming, so I'm not going to go deep into this. 66-46 from Super, 1.43, 74-52 from Trakes, the Rookie of the Year. 66-57 from Metals, and 52-51 from Rancor. Everybody on Vancouver went negative. Blow it up. Capsule 0.63. That's tough. 36-31 from Tej on map 1, but it was 250 to 199, so what can you do, right? Word to scrap. 36-24, excuse me, from Super. Trakes, of course, was 34-28, and then Metals was 34-30, so those guys went nuts. They had their feet up, and Rancor was, he was just there, you know? Didn't have to do anything. Map 2, Den S&D, of course, went the way of Miami, 6-2. They need some leg room. Trakes 11-3, Metals 8-5, Rancor 6-4, and you know Miami, they just coasted to an easy win. Obviously, everybody on the Surge went neg, and then in the map 3, Den Overload, it was 3-2, pretty close Overload to be honest with you. Surge played this a lot better, but it just didn't matter in the end, as Miami was just endlessly farming them for kills. At a certain point, they didn't even care about going for caps. Like they were just playing in their spawn. So 27-16 from Super, Rancor 23-15, and Trakes 29-21, and then Metals, of course, 24-22. So everybody had a green light. They all, you know, collected 200 and passed go. Speaking of people with green lights, the Riyadh Falcons color-coded for the victory. They got the green light and the dub. Cell, King Kobe, he's back 69-53. You know, he had a really slow series earlier in the weekend, but he was just like, hey, got to get right. Pred 61-54, 73-67 out of Exon, and 59-62 out of Kismet. Then on the other side, of course, everybody on the LA Thieves went negative, so that's kind of interesting. But what are you going to do? What can you do? 250-244 on the map 1. Of course, Hydra was 39-30 for the L. And then on the Riyadh Falcon side, you had a much better team contribution from Cell, X, and Kiz. Of course, Cell was 30-25, X at 36-32. He went nuts, and Kismet was 30-30. 6-3 for the Riyadh Falcons on the S&D. It really just wasn't close in this one, honestly. Riyadh was just going crazy, and they were just way more decisive. Abizi and Hydra played pretty badly and pretty mindless on this one, so that's really all it came down to. Pred was just having a time, right? He was getting all the first bloods. He was winning the gunfights against Abizi, just sitting in the spawn, waiting for him, super patient. Easy reads, honestly. 9-5 from him, 7-4 from Cell. The Bulldog, he was on leash, 8-7, just patrolling, getting kills whenever he wanted, making plays. And then Scrap, he tried to make some plays, as did Niam, but, you know, when Hydra and Abizi are not on the same page, you're going to have a rough time. Speaking of Hydra and Abizi not being on the same page, Abizi had a 1.21 and Hydra had a 0.71, so not sure what's going on with these guys, but it really showed in this loss that Abizi and Hydra are kind of not playing the same pace, and that's a really big problem for Thieves here. 32-24 from Celium, he had no problems. Pred and Exnid, they're playing at the same pace. 27-22 from Pred, 32-27 from X, and then Kiz slightly neg. But yeah, Abizi 1.21, he played pretty well on the map 3. But that was the only map that he really did exceptionally well on in the series. I mean, he went neg 10 map 1, and it was pretty close. So, yeah, I mean, Hydra and Abizi, they just be trading places and trading ass. So, Yeah, they got to get right. Speaking of people who got right, we had Simp, a man who used to play with the BZ, who usually got right with him, dropping a 1.33, 76 kills, 57 deaths, 9,000 damage in a 3-0 against the Carolina Royal Ravens. Lurks tried to 1v4 him, as I said in the title of yesterday's highlights, last highlights of the week. And yeah, he failed. He actually did get a 1v4 map too, though. So if you missed that, check that out. That's, of course, on YouTube Shorts. And yeah, it's on the channel as well in the full highlights. So, Simp 76 to 57, like I said, 70 and 56 from 04, 72 and 58 from Draza, and Abuza went neg 4, so no big deal there. Everybody on Ravens, with the exception of Lurks, like I said a second ago, went neg. Map 1, 250 to 137. Simp went absolutely nuclear, 39 and 25. I mean, who knows how many kills he could have gotten if this went deeper. Same for Lurks, right? 39 and 29 from him. 31 and 26 from the CEO, Draza, and 29 and 26 from 04. Everybody else in the lobby went neg. Map 2, S&D on Den. This, of course, went pretty decisively in favor of FaZe 6 to 3. Lurks, of course, got the 1v4. That's the only really interesting thing to write home about. Exceed went even as well. And then on the FaZe side, you had 04 going crazy. He called game with a 1v3, 1v4, something like that. So yeah, we might have had two aces in the same game. I think it was a 1v3 though. So anyways, 10-6 from him, 8 and 7 from Abuza, and draws went even. Simp went slightly neg, 8 and 9. A lot of engagements though, so can't be mad at it. Everybody from FaZe played really well. High engagements, high action, high octane, and high scoreline, right? High differential and round count. So speaking of high differential in scoreline and round count, of course, FaZe won 5-1 in the overload to send Royal Ravens into the week with a lot to practice toward and think about and review. Lurks, of course, was the standout once again in the map 3, 30 and 30. He went 30 for 30, you know. 35 and 26 from Draza, 31 and 24, from 04, Simp 29 and 23, and Abuza went even. So that's how we close out the series and subsequently the week. So, as you guys saw, I did really well on Sunday. I thought that G2 would win. They won. I thought Miami would win. They won. I thought that the Thieves would win. They did not. And I thought that FaZe would win, and they won. So yeah, guys, I'll be back tomorrow to give you a preview of what to expect going into our final week of qualifiers before Major 3 in Birmingham, England. So hope you guys have a great morning, noon, or night. Like I always say on these videos, hope you enjoyed all the COD this weekend. If you missed anything, don't forget to check out the channel where I go over all of the matches, and I have highlights from every match that we see in the CDL week by week. So catch you guys on the next one where I will be going over our predictions for this week's matches, and then I'll be going through some of the highlights from most likely just Mates and OpTic, because that was just a gold mine. So see you guys there. Catch you on the next one. Once again, this is Chris from Fake Sports News Axe Rotation. Soon to be back up on the web soon, by the way, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.